I hear the Spirit placing these words on my heart for someone watching this today. Someone specific. Someone who has been carrying something for a very long time and does not yet fully know how close they are to the end of that carrying. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not forgotten. Before I go any further, I want to ask you one thing. Stay with this message until the very end. Because in the next several minutes, I'm going to walk you through 5 specific signs that are already showing up in your body and your spirit right now. I'm going to take you to an ancient Hebrew word that will reframe your entire recent season. I am going to show you the neuroscience of what was actually happening inside you during the hardest part of this journey. And I'm going to give you a practical framework for what comes next. None of this is general. It is built for someone specific. Stay until the end. You will understand why when we get there. Now, let me speak to the version of you that is exhausted, not tired from a long week, not worn down from one difficult season. I'm talking about the specific, bone-deep kind of exhausted that comes from carrying something for a very long time. The exhaustion of holding on to faith, onto hope, onto a quiet conviction that your life is supposed to matter in a way that has not fully shown up yet. The exhaustion of continuing to believe something you cannot yet see. That person is you. You did not arrive here by accident. The specific moment you pressed play, the exact hour you are in, the particular weight you are carrying right now. None of it is random. Something moved you here, something that does not announce itself with loud signs or dramatic moments, but with a quiet pull, a gentle gravity toward a direction you cannot fully explain. You followed it, and that following was itself a form of passing a test you did not know you were taking. Before you were born, God knew this day was coming. He knew the season you would walk through. He knew the exact texture of what it would cost you. He wrote something for this very moment, sealed it, and waited for you to become the person who was ready to receive it. Most people do not know they are being examined while the examination is happening. They just know they are surviving. They just know that every day they choose to stay requires something they are not always sure they still have. They do not know that every one of those choices was being witnessed, that every act of faith in the dark was being counted, that every morning they got up when they did not feel like it was being recorded somewhere that matters infinitely more than any earthly ledger. The examination is over. The grading is complete. The seal is breaking. God looked at everything, every day of your waiting, every choice you made when no one was watching, every small, quiet act of faith that required more courage than anyone around you ever knew. And he said one sentence, clearly, completely, with nothing held back. You passed, chosen one, 100%, and something is being opened for you today that has had your name on it since before you took your first breath. Stay with me. This is the message you have been waiting for. Everything I'm about to share with you in this message is completely free. There is no obligation attached to any of it. But I want to be transparent with you from the very beginning. If at any point something in your spirit says there is more, something beyond just hearing and receiving, something you want to carry forward in a tangible way, you will find it in the description below and in the pinned comment. Only if you feel led. Not before, and not under any pressure. It is simply there when you are ready. Now, before I tell you what it means that you passed, I want to show you something first, because you already know it is true. The proof is already written on you. You do not need to take my word for it, because God does not only speak in words, He speaks in the body, He speaks in the emotions, He speaks in the patterns of a life. And right now, He has been leaving specific markers that this season is completing. Let me show you what they are. The first sign is a specific kind of fatigue that you have been carrying, and it is not the kind that sleep fixes, not the sign of illness or weakness. It is the fatigue that comes when a very long cycle is in the final stages of completing itself, like someone in the last stretch of a journey who feels their body growing heavy, not because they are failing, but because everything in them has been poured into reaching exactly this point. This is not random. This is not your body giving out on you. This is completion. This is the weight of a season that is finally setting itself down. The second sign is something you may have noticed in moments of stillness or prayer or quiet reflection, an unexpected warmth, a chill that moves through you without clear reason, a physical response to something invisible. This is not anxiety, and this is not your nervous system misfiring. This is your body feeling what your spirit already knows, responding to something that is moving in the world around you right now that your natural senses were not built to detect. The third sign is the waves, the emotional waves that arrive without warning and without a clear reason attached to them. The feeling of grief and hope existing in the same moment, as if something old is leaving and what is coming has not yet fully landed. This is not instability. This is not falling apart. This is a transition happening at a depth that is below the level of your daily vocabulary, a shift so real and so deep that your emotions cannot contain it in neat, explainable categories. The fourth sign is the detachment. The things that used to fill you, the old routines, the familiar social patterns, even some of the company that once felt like home, they are losing their pull. Something in you is no longer calibrated to the frequency of your old life. And this is not loss. This is not apathy or depression. This is your spirit refusing to stay tuned to a station that your life has already outgrown. And the fifth sign is the repetition, the same number appearing in unrelated places, the same phrase surfacing in 3 different conversations from 3 different people across 3 different days. A word that keeps returning, as if someone is underlining a sentence in a language you are only just beginning to read fluently. This is not coincidence. This is not your mind creating patterns where there are none. This is God leaving a trail for someone He knows is paying attention. 5 signs, and if even one of these is true for you right now, you're inside this message for a reason. But these signs are only the surface, because what is causing them goes deeper than any one of them alone can show you. Let me just stay here for a moment before we go further. I want to say something that is not a teaching point. It is just a thought I want to place in front of you. I have been thinking about what God's silence sounds like, because most people hear silence and interpret it as absence. They hear nothing coming back from their prayers and they conclude, "He has moved on," or "something went wrong," or "I missed a turning point somewhere back in the road." But here is what I have come to believe. The silence of God is not the silence of someone who has left the room. It is the silence of a craftsman in deep concentration, the quiet of a letter being written slowly, carefully, with every word chosen. Not empty silence, full silence. The fullness of something being prepared. The silence was never absence. Chosen one, it was always attention. Take one real breath before we continue. Okay, let me give you the first revelation. Here is the first truth I want to give you. The most important examination of your life was one that no one told you was happening. No announcement, no syllabus, no classroom with a deadline on the wall. Just life, showing up in its ordinary, in its devastating forms, and inside all of it, a question being asked of you in a language you did not know you were speaking. A question written into the texture of how you responded when things fell apart. In what you chose to protect when you were forced to choose. In whether you returned to your faith or left it behind when faith cost you something real. Here is how you can know, looking back, that what you walked through was divine testing and not random suffering. The first way you can know is this. The test came in the exact area of your calling. Not somewhere unrelated, not in a random corner of your life. It came precisely at the point of your assignment, because you cannot be entrusted with something you have not been proven in. The person called to financial leadership was tested in the area of financial faithfulness. The person called to speak into people's lives was tested in the area of their own worth and voice. The test was mapped to the calling. That is not a coincidence. The second way you can know is this: what the test required of you was precisely what you needed to develop. There was a specific quality being built during the difficulty: discernment, patience, the ability to hold hope without requiring it to perform on demand, the capacity to remain faithful when faithfulness offered no visible reward. Whatever it was in your specific season, look carefully and you will find that the quality the testing demanded of you is the exact quality you will need most in the next chapter. And the third way you can know is this: surviving it changed who you are at the root, not just the surface. Something shifted inside you that cannot be undone. A quality of settledness, a depth that was not there before, a groundedness that was built through something greater than your own effort. This is not random, this is curriculum. Divinely designed, precisely calibrated, built specifically around the architecture of who you were created to become. I want to share something briefly. Someone I know was in a waiting season for close to 3 years. 3 years of praying and believing and getting up every day and continuing, while watching people around them step into things that seemed to come easily, while their own path felt like moving through resistance. They reached the point of almost releasing the dream, not from bitterness, from a kind of quiet exhaustion. And then, within a window of 10 days, 3 completely separate things opened simultaneously, not one at a time, all at once, as if a series of doors had always been there, waiting for a specific combination. What they said was not that God finally remembered. What they said was, it felt like He had been building toward exactly this sequence the whole time, not despite the 3 years, because of them. And I hear the Father saying something over you right now that I want to place carefully in your spirit. He is saying, I saw you when no one else did. I was in every room you thought was empty. I counted every step of that walk. Not one of them was wasted. Not one of them was forgotten. I was there. Now I want to show you the second layer, and this one is going to surprise some of you. There is a scientific dimension to what you have been living through, not instead of the spiritual dimension. Alongside it. Because God created the human brain and He created it with specific capacities that are not separate from your spiritual experience. They are the instrument through which your spiritual life is lived. A research team whose work spans 3 decades and several leading institutions, including MIT, Princeton, Harvard, and several other leading universities, mapped something remarkable about the human brain. They mapped what happens under prolonged seasons of pressure, uncertainty, and sustained waiting. And what they found is directly relevant to everything you have been carrying. Inside the human brain there is a frequency, a brainwave frequency that scientists call gamma. And gamma is extraordinary. It is the frequency associated with peak clarity, with deep intuition, with the effortless kind of knowing that allows you to receive insight, to sense what is coming before it arrives. Children are born with gamma fully activated. You can see it in how quickly they learn, how creatively they process the world, how naturally they trust what they feel on the inside. A child believes something completely and acts on it without a shadow of internal debate. But something begins to happen around the age of 7. Researchers call it the decline effect. The modern world, the way we are educated, the way we are conditioned to process stress and suppress what we feel, begins to quiet the gamma frequency. Not all at once. Gradually. Over years. Until by the time most people reach adulthood, the frequency that was their most powerful, God-given cognitive endowment is running at a fraction of its original capacity. And here is what this means for you specifically. The prolonged season of testing you have been in, the weight of it, the uncertainty of it, the sustained pressure of it, deepened that suppression. Not because you did something wrong, because you were carrying extraordinary spiritual weight inside a human brain. The clarity, the intuition, the receptivity to divine communication that you needed most during that season became harder to access. Not because God was speaking less, because the receiver was dampened. I want to mention something here. Dr. Lake, the neuroscientist whose research we are going to return to in just a moment, has spent his career building more than a single tool. He built a sequence, a full restoration architecture, as he calls it, multiple phases of recovery. Today, we are only touching the first piece of that sequence. When you are ready for more, it will find you. But here is what I want you to hold right now. What happened in your brain during that season was not failure. It was the biological response of a human being carrying something genuinely extraordinary. And the gamma frequency that was suppressed during it is not gone. It is waiting. There is a tool I want to introduce to you now, briefly, because we are going to return to it in full depth in part 2. It is called the Genius Song. It is a 7-minute audio track developed by Dr. Robert Lake, built on 34 years of neuroscience research into gamma wave reactivation through a technology called brain entrainment. It gently guides your brain back toward the frequency that was suppressed during the season you walked through. That is all I'm going to say about it right now, because I need to take you somewhere deeper first before the full picture of this will make complete sense. But if something in your spirit is already responding, the information is in the pinned comment and description below. It will be there when you are ready. Because what I am about to show you in part 2 is the revelation that makes all of this, the signs, the season, the science, come together into a single coherent picture. Here is what we have established. You were in a test you did not know was happening. It came in the area of your calling, required exactly what you needed to develop, and changed who you are at the root. Your brain carried the neurological weight of that season alongside the spiritual weight, and there is a pathway back to the clarity that was suppressed during it. But I have not yet told you the most important thing. Because you passed is a human phrase. And the original language that God uses for this moment is something far more powerful than a grade. There is a Hebrew word I want to give you in part 2 that will reframe your entire understanding of what God is doing right now. And I want to tell you about a man whose every chapter looked like failure from the inside and what happened when his season ended. If what I have shared with you so far has landed in your spirit, I want to ask you to leave a comment right now with 2 words. I passed. Let that go into the world with your name on it before you have seen everything. Before you have the full picture, declare it. That declaration is itself a form of stepping across a threshold. If this channel has been finding you at the right moments, the subscribe button below keeps the connection open. And if something has already shifted in you from what you have heard, a like below is how you acknowledge what happened here today. Part 2 is waiting. Do not go far. Chosen one, you are still here. And I want to say something before we go any further. That itself, the fact that you stayed, means something. The message that is truly built for you is always the one that holds you when you could have left. In part 1, I showed you the 5 signs. I showed you that you were inside a divine examination without knowing it. I showed you the neuroscience of what was happening inside your brain during that season. And I told you there is a Hebrew word I want to give you. I am going to give it to you now. But before I do, there is one more thing I need to lay down first. One piece that connects everything, the science to the spiritual, the story I'm about to tell you to your own story, the tool I will show you later to the timing of what you are standing in right now. Once I give you this piece, everything else will fall into place. Stay with me. When the Bible speaks about being lifted, about God turning his face towards someone in blessing and elevation and favor, one of the most powerful original Hebrew words used is nasa. N-A-S-A, nasa. The word means to lift, to carry upward, to bear. It is the word used when God takes something and moves it from one altitude to another. And it is profoundly different from what we mean when we say, "You passed in English." Because passing in English suggests a grade, a mark on a page, an acknowledgement. It implies something noted and filed and recorded. But NASA is not acknowledgement. NASA is movement. When God says to you, through the language of the original text, "You passed," what he is actually saying is this: I am lifting you. I am carrying you upward, from the altitude of what the testing built you into to the altitude of what was always written for you. NASA is not a certificate handed across a desk. It is the hand of God beneath you, physically, spiritually, in every dimension that is real, moving you from one place to a higher one. And here is what makes this extraordinary. The NASA never comes before the formation. It comes after. Every time you see it in Scripture, the lifting follows the season of being made ready. The wilderness is not the destination. It is the runway, and the NASA is the moment of ascent. You are at the moment of ascent, chosen one. Now I want to tell you about a man you already know, but I want you to hear his story differently than you have before. Joseph, not the illustrated version, not the comfortable retelling. The real man, the man who sat at the bottom of a cistern in complete darkness, put there by the people who were supposed to love him most, who was then sold, not lost, not separated by accident, sold like property to strangers who did not know his name or care about what was written over his life, who worked his way into a position of trust in a foreign household, only to be falsely accused and thrown into a prison he had done absolutely nothing to deserve, where he waited again. For years. Every room Joseph was placed in looked, from the inside, like failure. The pit looked like abandonment. The slave's position looked like the end of the dream. The prison looked like evidence that everything he had believed about himself and about God was simply not true. Every chapter, read on its own without the pages that followed, looked like a man being forgotten by the one who had promised him something. But we read his story now from the outside, and we see something entirely different. Every room was a classroom. The pit built a capacity for endurance that no comfortable life could have installed in him. The years of service built administrative character and faithfulness under authority that would be impossible to manufacture in any other environment. The prison gave him the practice of hearing people's stories with full attention, a sharpened spiritual sensitivity, a quality of presence that only comes from staying faithful when faithfulness offers nothing visible in return. Every single room built exactly what the next room would require. And then one day, Pharaoh had a dream, and the interpretation required the very specific combination of gifts that had been assembled in Joseph across every season of what had looked like loss. And Joseph went from a prison cell to the second highest position in the nation, not gradually, not over years, but in a single day. The NASA, when it came, was sudden, not because it was unexpected in the heart of God, but because the formation had been quietly completing itself on the inside, while the outside still looked like a holding place. Think also, briefly, of Moses. 40 years in the wilderness of Midian. 40 years that looked from any reasonable human perspective like a man who had been set aside and forgotten. A life interrupted, a calling delayed, a season with no visible movement. And then, in the exact moment when what was being formed inside him was complete, a burning bush. A calling that had never been dormant, only patient. Moses did not come out of those 40 years diminished. He came out equipped in every dimension of what leading a nation through impossible conditions would require. The wilderness has been equipping you, chosen one. Not breaking you, equipping you. And the NASA is not a distant possibility. It is the next logical step of a sequence that has been running since your wilderness began. Now I want to give you the deepest truth, the one that makes all of this, every sign, every layer of what we have built together in this message, come together into a single picture. You passed is not the ending of a hard season. It is the beginning of a commissioned life. There is a difference between being prepared and being sent, between being formed and being commissioned, between carrying the potential of a calling and walking in the active assignment of one. Those are not the same thing. And the line between them is the NASA. Crossing that line is what today is. Chosen one. You have crossed that line. And I hear the Father saying something that I want to place carefully in your spirit right now. Listen, He is saying, I watched every day. Every morning you got up when you did not feel like it. Every night you went to sleep still believing in something you could not yet see. Every moment you chose the harder, truer path when the easier one was right there in front of you. I was in every room. I saw every step. I saw what it cost you, and I saw what it built in you. And I want you to hear this now. Without condition, without exception, without any asterisk attached to it, you passed every single test, every single one. Now let me show you your own season from the outside, from the only vantage point that has been able to see all of it clearly from the beginning. What felt like abandonment was actually alignment. What felt like silence was actually strategy. What felt like rejection was actually protection. What felt like delay was actually design. And what felt like a letter that would never come was actually a letter being written slowly, carefully, with every word chosen, preserved until exactly the right reader arrived to receive it. That reader is here now. That reader is you. Now I want to address something I know is happening in some of you right now as you hear this, because there is a part of you that is bracing, that is waiting for the catch, running a quiet internal calculation that says, yes, but what if this is too good to be true for me specifically? Yes, but what if I am the exception? Yes, but what if I step into something and then the floor shifts again? I want to speak directly to that part of you. That instinct, that protective hesitation sitting just behind your receiving right now. It is not faithlessness. It is the scar tissue of someone who has hoped before, who has believed before, who has stood at what looked like a threshold before and felt the ground move underneath them. That healthy wariness is not a sign of a weak spirit. It is actually the sign of a wise one. It is evidence that you have been taught by your own experience to hold things carefully, to not let yourself get carried away until you are sure. But here is what I want you to understand about the fear of breakthrough specifically. The fear of what it will mean if the promise is actually true. The fear of being seen, of stepping into something real and public and irreversible. That fear is not a signal to stay small. It is a signal that what is ahead of you is genuinely large and you are genuinely close to it. People who are not in any real proximity to something significant do not feel this particular fear. You are feeling it because what is ahead of you is real. And so I want to give you permission right now, not from me. This is the permission that was declared over you the moment the NASA began. You are allowed to receive what has been prepared for you, without earning it again, without proving it one more time, without explaining it to anyone who does not have the eyes to see it. You're allowed to stop bracing for the floor to drop. You're allowed to believe that good things, real things, permanent things are coming into your life, that they are coming specifically for you, and that they will stay. You are allowed to outgrow the version of yourself that survival required and to walk, without apology, into the version that the formation produced. You are allowed to open the letter. And for those of you who are entering this season, I want to name 3 things that are beginning to shift. In your relationships, the connections that belong to your next chapter are beginning to move toward you, and the ones that belong to the last chapter are completing their movement out. For those entering this season, both of those things will feel real. In your purpose, the clarity that has been building on the inside is sharpening. The specific assignment that was visible to God but not yet fully legible to you is coming into focus. And in the area of provision, the resources the next season requires have not been blocked. They have been in preparation. These three areas will not all move at once necessarily, but they will move, and the movement of one creates the conditions for the next. Before I take you into the final part of this message, I want to stop for just a moment. I want to acknowledge you. You stayed through everything we have built together here. The signs, the formation, Joseph and Moses, the NASA, the deepest truth. You are still here, and that is not a small thing. In its own way, it is a living demonstration of exactly what we have been talking about. Someone who shows up and stays, even through the parts that require something, is someone who has already proven something about themselves. I see that. I honor it. Take one slow breath before we close this together. Okay, let me bring this together for you, clearly. Here is why you came into this message feeling the way you did. You were in the middle of a formation season, and formation, from the inside, always feels like its opposite. It feels like stagnation when it is actually development. It feels like being overlooked when it is actually being prepared. It feels like a long delay when it is actually a precise architecture. Here is what we have established together today. There were 5 signs in your body and your spirit that all point to the same thing. A threshold crossing happening right now. The test you were in was not random. It was designed precisely around the area of your calling and built in you exactly what the next season requires. There is a neurological dimension to what you have been carrying. The gamma frequency, the God-given cognitive endowment that was suppressed during that season, is not gone. It is waiting to be restored. The Hebrew word for what God is doing right now is nasa, not a grade, a movement, a lifting, and you are in your Joseph chapter, at the transition point, after the formation, at the beginning of the ascent. That is what is true about you and your season right now. And because I want to give you something practical to carry forward, something that works at the level of the neuroscience we discussed, I want to show you the tool now. Let me come back to the genius song, because now that you have the full context, the introduction I gave you in part 1 can land differently. Dr. Robert Lake is a neuroscientist who spent 34 years studying one thing. He studied what happens to the gamma brainwave over the course of a human life, how it is suppressed by the modern world and by sustained seasons of pressure, and whether it can be restored. His research was conducted in collaboration with teams at MIT, Princeton, Harvard, and several other leading research institutions. And what his decades of work led to was this discovery. The brain can be guided back toward gamma through a specific, precisely calibrated audio technology called brain entrainment. When the auditory frequency is right, the brain begins to synchronize with it, shifting back toward the state it was always designed to operate in. Dr. Lake compressed 34 years of research into a 7-minute audio track. 7 minutes of listening with headphones on, and the brain begins, from the very first session, to move back toward the frequency that was suppressed. Not hours of practice, not years of discipline. 7 minutes. I want to tell you a story. There was a woman, a teacher, who had grown up as someone people described as a natural learner. Sharp, quick, effortlessly curious. And then over years of adult life, the accumulation of pressure and routine and a life that had not gone the way she had believed it would, she described it as watching a light slowly get dimmer. She did not feel broken. She just felt increasingly distant from the version of herself she had known as a child. She began using the genius song as what she called a nothing-to-lose experiment. And what she experienced over the following weeks was not a dramatic overnight shift. It was quieter than that, a gradual return, an emergence, as if the person she had always been, the one that never left but had been pushed underneath, was finding its way back to the surface. She used one word to describe what it felt like. She said, "Familiar. I feel familiar again." I cannot promise you her experience. I want to be completely honest with you about that. Results vary, the timeline varies, and this is not a guarantee of any specific outcome. What I can share with you is the data. More than 18,000 people have used this tool. Less than 4% have requested a refund. That means more than 96 out of every 100 people who try this continue using it through and past the guarantee window. That number is not a marketing claim. It is the clearest kind of real-world signal available. Now let me talk about the practical side. If you wanted to address gamma suppression through other means, here is what the options look like. A single session with a therapist runs around $150, and it rarely targets gamma specifically. A weekend spiritual retreat is between $400 and $800. A monthly subscription to one of the popular mindfulness apps is around $15 per month. None of them were designed around gamma reactivation. Dr. Lake took 34 years of research and compressed it into a 7-minute daily tool, and the price he set is $49. For the people watching this specific video, the price is $39. Not available on Amazon, so not available anywhere else. $39. Delivered immediately to your email as a digital file, you can begin today. And with the Genius Song, you also receive 4 additional tools at no cost. The first is a 6-minute audio track calibrated specifically for children called Genius Child, valued at $19, designed to protect the gamma in a young brain before the decline effect sets in. The second is the original book that the film The Secret drew its foundational ideas from, a book about real financial principles that most people have never encountered, valued at $20. The third is a 22-minute guided visualization walking you through 4 major areas of your life, valued at $29. And the fourth is a practical reference card outlining the 5 daily habits that help maintain the gamma frequency once it is reactivated, valued at $12. That is $80 in additional resources, yours free with the $39 purchase. And the guarantee on this is built in a way I respect deeply. If at any point within 90 days you feel this is not serving you, you can request a full refund. No conditions, no questions, and you keep every one of the 4 bonuses. All $80 worth of tools, yours to keep regardless. It is built on the belief that if this does not work for you, the least he can do is leave you with something of value for the time you invested. To the person thinking right now, I do not have the discipline to follow through, or this will sit in my inbox unused. 7 minutes, less than most people spend deciding what to watch before they actually watch it. No special setup, no meditation practice required, no extra hour added to your morning. You sit somewhere quiet, put your headphones on, and let the science work. That is it. Before you go looking for this, there is one thing I need to tell you. There are imitations out there. Products with similar names and similar descriptions that are not the same technology. Dr. Lake's specific brain entrainment calibration is not interchangeable with generic frequency audio. The only source for the authentic track is the link in the pinned comment and the description below. Go there directly. The Genius Song. Pinned comment. Description below. Only when your spirit says yes. Only if you feel led. And for those of you who feel there is more beyond this first door, who sense that what Dr. Lake has built extends further than what we covered today, that too is in the description for when you are ready. Before I pray with you, I want to give you something to do right now, from exactly where you are. You do not need to move. You do not need anything in front of you. This is done on the inside. I want you to imagine, just for a moment, that you are holding something in your hands. It is a letter. It has your name on the outside, written in a handwriting you somehow recognize, though you have never seen it before. You have been aware of this letter for a long time, the way you are sometimes aware of something without being able to name it. A sense that something is coming, something prepared, something with your name on it. Now feel the seal on the letter. It is not a lock. It was never meant to keep you out. It was only ever meant to protect what was written inside until the right moment. Until the reader had been formed enough to receive the full weight of every word written there. The seal is open now, chosen one. Feel that. The letter is already open in your hands. You do not have to read every word today. You do not have to understand everything at once. You just need to receive the first line. The first line of the letter, the one written before your first breath, says this: I chose you. Before the testing, before the wilderness, before the weight you have been carrying, I chose you then, and I have been choosing you through every day since. Breathe that in, let it settle somewhere deep. Now let me pray with you. We release the frame of failure now. Together, we release the identity of someone who is behind, who is still waiting for permission that was already granted, who is still living as if the examination has not ended. We release it because it is not true anymore. And it was never the truest thing about you. You are tested and proven, not untested and perfect, not unmarked and comfortable. Tested, proven. The fire did not define you. It revealed you. And God has always known this about you. You are commissioned, not just called, not just gifted, not just full of potential, sent with an active assignment in an active season for an active purpose. And God has always known this about you. You are NASA'd, you are lifted. From the altitude where the testing took place to the altitude where the calling is carried out. From the letter sealed to the letter open. And God has always known this about you. You are a carrier. There is something in you that this world needs, not something you manufactured or performed. Something placed in you before you arrived, grown through what you walked through, and now being released into every room you enter. And God has always known this about you. You are threshold. Right now, in this moment, you are standing at the exact point where before becomes after, where the formation becomes the mission, where the letter is opened and the words begin to be lived out loud. And God has always known this about you. Father, I stand here with this person right now, with every layer they brought into this message and everything they are carrying out of it. I want to honor the season they have been in, every day of it, every morning they chose to continue. Every night they released what they could not control and trusted what they could not see. You saw all of it. You counted all of it. And today, by the grace of the NASA, it is being lifted. I ask that what was written for them before they were born would begin to come visible now, that the doors which have their name on them would begin to open, that the people who belong to their next chapter would begin to find their way to each other, that the clarity that has been building on the inside would begin to translate into movement on the outside. And I hear the Father saying over this person, clearly, without reservation, now open what I have been holding for you. It was never lost. It was never forgotten. It was never given to someone else. It was kept perfectly, precisely for this moment, for you. Go in the knowledge that you passed. Go in the authority of someone who has been commissioned by the only one whose opinion of you is permanent. Go in the grace of everything that was formed in you during the season that is now complete. The letter is open, chosen one. What is written inside belongs entirely to you. Chosen one, if this message found you exactly when it needed to, I want to ask you to leave a comment below, right now, with 3 words. The letter is open. Let that declaration go into the world with your name on it. If something in this message shifted something in you, if you felt even a moment of the NASA, the like button below is how you acknowledge what happened here today. If this channel has been finding you at the right moments, the subscribe button keeps the connection open. These messages are not assembled at random, and neither are you. And right now, you know someone. You do not have to think very hard to see their face. Someone who has been sitting in the same waiting room you have been in. Someone who has been getting up every day and continuing without knowing if the continuing is working. Someone who needs to hear today that what they have been walking through was not punishment. It was preparation. The share button is how this message reaches them. You received it today. You can carry it forward, and if you feel led to take the next step with the Genius Song, everything you need is waiting for you in the pinned comment and the description below. Take the time you need. Let your spirit lead the decision. You passed, chosen one. Now walk in it.